214. Trauma Bay 3. Male, approximately 19, unresponsive on arrival. GSW left flank, through and through. BP 80/40 and falling. The doctor on call pulled gloves over wet hands and bent to the work. The night charge nurse, Han, would say afterward that she had watched Dr. Adela Vask work 1,000 bad hours and never seen her hesitate the way she hesitated for 1/2 second over the boy on the gurney. Only Han, who had worked beside her for 16 years, saw the small still moment before the doctor's hands began. Then those hands began and did not stop. 2 units, Oneg. Hang them now, Adela said. Page the OR. Foley, line, type, and cross. Get me a chest tube tray. Her voice was the same voice it always was at 2 in the morning, low, dry, unfooled. Hane, who brought him in? 2 men. Long coats. They put him on the curb and drove off. Of course they did. ID on him? None. Phone? None. All right. Adela set the heel of her hand under the boy's ribs and felt for the rhythm of the bleeding. Then he's nobody's. He's mine. She had said that line for 19 years and never meant anything but the thing every doctor means by it, that the man under her hands belonged to her until she could give him back to himself. Tonight she did not yet know that by sunrise she would mean it another way as well. Hannah pressed the call button. The oar answered. The room narrowed to the boy. Adela worked the way she had been taught at 24, without flinching and without hurry, because hurry was how a surgeon lost. She talked him through it as if he could hear her, because in her experience sometimes they could. All right, son. Slow breath. Slow breath. We've got you. She did not look at his face for 11 minutes. When she did look up, finally, with the chest tube placed and the pressure climbing back into a number a person could survive, she looked at his face properly, and her hand on the clamp went very still. She knew that face. She did not know him. She knew the face. She had seen it 23 years ago in a photograph on a mantel in a house she had walked into as a young surgical resident with a quiet new husband at her elbow, a small boy on a man's shoulders, both laughing. The man had been her husband's older brother. The boy had been 4. He had had this exact mouth. The boy on her table was 19, give or take. The mouth was the same. Adela held very still for one breath. Then she said, in the same dry voice, Han, take over compressions. I'm going to scrub for the OR. Han, Han. She walked to the sink. She washed to the elbows. She did not look at her own face in the steel. For 19 years, doctor. Adela Vask had quietly been the family physician of a man no one in this hospital would have dared name out loud, her husband's brother, the head of an old house no police report ever quite touched. She had stitched a cousin's hand in her own kitchen when the boy was 17. She had set a driver's broken collarbone on a Sunday morning. She had pulled a bullet once, only the once out of a man named Petter in the wine cellar of the house on Lipov Street, with her brother-in-law watching her hands across the table and saying nothing at all. Her husband, Mikhail, a kind orthopedic surgeon, had asked her the year they married for one thing. If he ever calls, go. Do not ask. Just go. She had gone. It was not many times. It had been enough. She had never spoken about it. Not to colleagues. Not to friends. Not even to Mikhail. Beyond times, he is all right. It had been the wall in her life she did not put a window in. And tonight, a boy with that mouth had been dropped on the curb of her hospital. She finished scrubbing. She turned back into the room. Oars ready, Hanna said. Dr. Vask, are you all right? I'm fine. You're white. I'm fine, Hannah. Let's go. They wheeled him down the corridor. The fluorescents stuttered, as they always did past the old wing. The boy's eyes did not open. Adela kept her hand on the gurney rail lightly, the way a mother keeps her hand on a sleeping child in a car. In the elevator, she allowed herself one thought and then put it down. Mira's boy. He would be 19 this winter. She had not seen the boy since he was 4. The brother's wife had taken the child and run into a country Adela had only seen on a map. The brother had not chased them. He had sat the next New Year's Eve at her kitchen table, with his coat still on, and drunk one glass of brandy and said, "She did the right thing. The boy will have a life now." He had not said the boy's name again. In 15 years, Adela had never asked. The OR doors opened. She operated for 2 hours and 40 minutes. She found the bleeder behind the descending colon and tied it off. She repaired the splenic capsule. She closed in 3 layers and let the residents finish the skin. When she peeled her gloves off, her own hands were shaking slightly for the first time in a year. She walked out into the corridor. She called Mikhail from the doctor's lounge. "It's me," she said. "I need you to find your brother. Tonight. Now." There was a small silence at the other end. Mikhail had not heard that particular request in 7 years. "Adela." "What?" "I think a boy was just brought into my OR who shouldn't exist on this side of the world. I need him. I need him to come quietly. Side entrance. Ask for me. Don't tell anyone else." Mikhail did not ask any more questions. That, too, was a thing he had learned not to do, years ago. In the matter of his older brother, he said only, "I'll find him." He hung up. Adela went and sat with the boy in recovery. She held his wrist, 2 fingers on the pulse, the way she had been taught to do as a student before there were monitors for it. The boy slept the heavy sleep that came after the body had been allowed to stop fighting. She studied the face properly now. There was no doubt at all. He had her brother-in-law's eyes, even closed the same heavy lids, the same sharp arch of the brow. He had Mira's mouth and Mira's jaw. He had a long, thin scar across the bridge of his nose that was nobody's but his own, from a life she did not know. She had stitched this family for 19 years and never let herself wonder what it cost them to stay alive. Tonight she let herself wonder. At 5:20, the side door of the recovery ward opened, and the most feared man in the city walked into the room. He came in alone. Mikhail had stayed in the corridor with one of his brother's drivers. The boss was dressed as he always was, a charcoal 3-piece, dark tie, dark coat over his arm. He had aged in the 7 years since he had last sat at her table. The temples were grayer. The shoulders were the same. He looked at her. He did not look at the boy. Adela. Druff. Stefan. She used his given name, which only family and 1 or 2 very old men used. She had earned it many years ago, in the wine cellar on Lipov Street, holding a clamp on a bleeder while he watched her hands and said nothing. "Tell me," he said. He came in at 2:14. Single wound to the flank. They put him out of a car at the curb. He had no ID. He is alive. He will live. She watched his face. It did not move. "Stefan, look at him." He looked. For one long moment, the most feared man in the city did not move. Then he sat down very slowly, the way a man sits when his legs have stopped being his legs. He set the coat across his knees and put one hand, palm flat, on the sheet beside the boy's hand. He did not touch the hand. He set his palm beside it. He looked at the long, thin scar across the boy's nose. "How old?" he said. 19, I think. Maybe 20. "Mira, his mother had your wife's mouth." "Yes." Stefan closed his eyes. When he opened them, the fierce, dark eyes the city was afraid of were wet, and he did not bother to hide it. He had not bothered to hide anything from Adela Vask in 15 years, because she had never given him a reason to. "She wrote me once," he said, very quietly, 8 years ago, to say she was dying. She did not ask for anything. She said only that the boy was being raised by her sister, and that he would be told nothing, and that I should let it stay that way. I let it stay that way. I know. Mikhail told me she had written. He did not tell me what she had said. I did not ask. Stefan's hand moved an inch closer to the boy's hand and stopped, and did not close the rest of the gap. He does not know me. No, he will not want to know me. You do not know that yet. Adela. His voice was very tired. How did he come to be on the curb of your hospital? I don't know. He had no phone. The driver who dropped him said nothing. She paused. Stefan. He was shot somewhere in this city by somebody. He came home to this city, and he was shot. That is not nothing. He nodded once, slowly. No, it is not nothing. He sat with the boy for an hour without speaking. Adela went out into the corridor, and Mikhail was still there, leaning against the wall, looking at his hands. Mikhail. He looked up. He came back, she said. Mira's boy came back. Her husband, the gentlest orthopedic surgeon in the city, closed his eyes for one breath. Then he opened them. Does Stefan? He is with him now. All right. She put her hand on her husband's arm. He covered her hand with his. They stood like that for a long time. By 8 o'clock, Stefan's people had quietly emptied the recovery wing of everyone who did not need to be there, quietly put a man at the door, and quietly arranged for a private room on the surgical floor. None of it touched Adela's hospital. She watched the way it was done, the soft word, the envelope she would never see, and understood for the first time in 19 years that the brother-in-law she had treated in silence had also, in silence, kept her hospital safe. The grants the children's wing had received from a foundation she had never quite traced. The night camera that had appeared at the staff garage the year a doctor had been mugged. The board member who had quietly stopped opposing her funding in the 3rd year of her tenure. None of it had been an accident. None of it had ever been said. She had been quietly serving the family. The family had been quietly serving her. At noon, the boy opened his eyes. He was confused, and in pain, and frightened, and he tried to sit up, and Adela's hand on his shoulder stopped him. You are in a hospital, she said. I am the doctor who operated on you. My name is Adela. You are safe. He looked at her. The eyes were Stefan's. He did not have words yet. I am going to ask you a question, she said gently, and you can answer it however you wish. What is your name? Tomas, he whispered. Tomas, Reina. The name his mother had given him, the name his father had never been allowed to use. All right, Tomas. Are you hungry? He shook his head. You will be. She straightened the sheet over his chest. There is a man sitting in the chair behind me, she said. He is my husband's older brother. He has been sitting there for 6 hours. He would like to meet you, if you would let him. He will not be hurt if you say no. You can take your time. The boy looked past her shoulder. He saw Stefan in the chair. He looked at him for a long moment, the way a young man looks at a face he has only ever seen in one photograph his mother kept, finally, in the bottom of a drawer. He said, Are you him? Stefan said, Yes. The boy did not say anything else for a while. He looked at the ceiling. Then he said, quietly, My mother said you let her go. She said you understood. I did. She said you sent her money for 10 years, and she never cashed any of it. She was right not to. She said before she died that if I ever came back here, I should find my aunt, the doctor, not you. She said you would not want to be found. She said the doctor would help me. The boy turned his head and looked at Adela. Are you her? The doctor? Adela found that her own voice was less steady than she had thought it would be. Yes, she said. I am the doctor. I am your aunt. She was right, the boy said. You helped. He looked back at Stefan. I came back, he said, because I wanted to see what kind of man you were. I wasn't going to tell you who I was. I was going to look and go. He paused. I picked the wrong street last night. I am sorry to do this to you like this. Do not be sorry, Stefan said. The most feared man in the city said it as gently as a man can say anything. I am the one who is sorry. I am sorry for 19 years, Tomas. The boy looked at him. The boy did not answer at once. Then he said, You can sit closer if you like. Stefan moved the chair the small distance to the bed. He did not take the boy's hand. He set his palm beside the boy's hand on the sheet, exactly as he had at 5 in the morning, and this time the boy's hand moved the 1.5 inches across the cotton, and the two hands met. Hane, the night charge nurse, who had been off her shift for 4 hours and had not gone home, was watching from the corridor through the small glass pane. She would say afterward, to no one, because Hannah was not a woman who said such things out loud. that she had seen the most feared man in the city become a father in a recovery room at noon on a Tuesday, and that she had seen Dr. Adela Vask, who never wept at work, turn away from the window and put her face for 1 second against her husband's shoulder, and then turn back and walk into the room with a chart in her hand and ask the boy whether he could manage a little broth. 3 days later, Tomas Reyna was discharged into a quiet apartment 2 streets from the house on Lipov Street, with a young woman from his uncle's staff to help him in the mornings and a key to Adela and Mikhail's front door for any hour he wanted to use it. He used it the first Sunday. He sat at her kitchen table with his arm in a sling and ate her cabbage soup and let his uncle, who did not know what to do with his hands, refill his glass twice. On the 4th Sunday, Stefan brought a small carved wooden bird and set it on Adela's windowsill, the way a man pays a debt finally in the right currency. Adela did not ask him where he had learned to carve. She had been a doctor at the edge of his family for 19 years, and she had learned, long ago, that what mattered was not the asking. She had thought, all those years, that she had been quietly serving them. She understood now that she had been their family the whole time, and only just learned it. The boy stayed. The brothers, after a winter, were brothers again, and the doctor who had stitched the wounds nobody was supposed to know about, found, at the end of 19 quiet years, that the family she had served in silence had been hers from the first house call, and that the most feared man in the city, at her kitchen table on a Sunday, would let his nephew refill his glass, and would, very quietly, smile.